Hey everyone, welcome to our webinar today, the Practical AI Playbook for B2B SaaS Marketing, from cool demos to standard operating procedure. I am so thrilled to be joined by Seema Kumar and Lauren Andrasco, and I'll have each of them do a quick intro in a few minutes. But before we get started, I just wanted to run through a couple of housekeeping items. So please note, everyone except the panelists are muted. However, we love to keep these webinars interactive and engaging. So if you have any questions for the panelists, feel free to throw them in the Q&A box. However, if you want to pose any questions for other attendees, you can throw that in the chat and use that to kind of respond or pose additional questions. And lastly, an email with the recording will be sent out tomorrow. So please be on the lookout for that in your inbox if you want to rewatch it or share it with any of your colleagues. All right, with that, I'm going to pass the baton over to Lauren to do intros, and I will be back for the Q&A, but enjoy the webinar, everyone.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here today. I'm Lauren Andrasco. I am a RevOps leader at OutSystems. I have an amazing team of operations folks who are working to embed AI in all of our processes to scale go-to-market growth. If you're not familiar with OutSystems, we're an AI-powered development platform. Thousands of customers use us to build custom apps and AI agents to help modernize their legacy processes and do it securely. Um, in terms of my 5 to 9 or my about me, I'm a mom of twin girls and a very important dog. I'm a wife, I'm a snow lover, even though I don't ski, and you can find me watching pretty much any HGTV TV show.
All right. Thanks, Lauren. Hi, everyone. My name is Seema Kumar. I am a CMO for hire, is what I like to say. I've been a CMO many times, most notably of New Relic. And now I work with startups of all sizes and stages to help them reboot their marketing organization, specifically in B2B SaaS. I also work with an organization called Whispered, where I help CMOs and VPs of marketing find their next role. We are a private community of go-to-market executives where everybody is looking for their next role together. And we have the largest database of unposted marketing roles in North America. Lots of playbooks and content if you're looking for help on how to find your next role. And we also have an AI chatbot that's trained on all of our content that helps you kind of strategize and navigate your search. So from 9 to 5, I help startups grow and figure out their marketing. From 5 to 9, I love lifting weights, gardening, and a new hobby is I'm raising chickens for eggs. So happy to talk about backyard chickens in addition to AI anytime. So I want to start by asking our audience who's here today how you're all feeling about AI. Because I was in a really powerful 2 day event with a bunch of CMOs last October, and it was all about AI and how to infuse AI throughout organizations. And the person who was running the workshop started by just saying, I want everyone to go around the room and share one emotion that comes up when you talk about AI. So go ahead and type that into the chat right now. I will tell you that that day in October, every CMO who was there named something that sounded like anxious, scared, feeling left behind, uncertain, not sure what to do, overwhelmed, snake oil. All right. Thank you, Juliana. Unknown risks from Craig. Thank you. I think it's really easy to feel overwhelmed. If you're on LinkedIn, any amount, you probably see all kinds of people posting like, look at all these cool automations I've built with N8N. And look, I've got a 100-person marketing organization and it's all through automation. And I'm doing it all without any people. Skeptical, uncertainty. Yes. Um, and what Lauren and I wanted to do was make AI feel more approachable and more accessible and show you some ways that you can start using it if you're not using it yet, in ways that are really, really concrete. We're going to show you some use cases that you could literally start using today. And I really, really like Actually, we're gonna get to that later. Sorry. One thing I want to share first, I was talking to somebody who came from totally outside the technology industry. He used to modify the interior of automobiles, and now he's doing a lot with AI video production. And I was like, tell me how you got into AI and what sort of enabled you to figure out how to use AI. And he said, the way I think about things is there's three kinds of categories of work we do. There's things that are easy, things that are hard, and things that are just downright impossible. You just can't do. And his framing was AI makes the things that were impossible possible. All of a sudden, we can do those things. They're hard, but they're possible to do. And the things that used to be really hard to do that maybe took you a month to do, AI makes them really easy, and we can do them now in days or hours. And things that were really easy to do but just took time, we can automate those now, and we don't have to spend our time doing those. And I felt like it was a really inspiring way to talk about what AI lets us do is it makes the things that used to feel impossible possible. So where do you get started? It's really overwhelming to be on LinkedIn and see like all of these complicated use cases that people are talking about and wondering, well, what's my company's policy on AI? What tools do I use? Kyle Poyer, who is really well known in the startup community and in growth circles, put together something that I think really frames a nice way to think about how to get started. He listed out 40 different use cases for go to market, and he broke them down into like college courses. Like there's a 101 level of a use case, there's a 201, and then there's 301. And I found this to be really helpful just to get started. If you're not sure where to start and if it feels really overwhelming, pick a couple of use cases that are listed here in the 101. And then as you build your confidence in one of the 101 use cases, it gets easier to say, okay, now I'm going to try something to the 201. And then you can kind of go through this list of use cases in the 201 column. And once you get some confidence with those, then you can start embarking in the 301. At the end of our webinar, Lauren and I will share some resources so that you can kind of have some jumping off points of where to go from here. We'll share with you some people that you can follow on LinkedIn who are sharing these use cases, and also a course on Maven that will help you get into the 301. All right. So if you are wondering, this feels really overwhelming. I don't want to start using AI. I have news for you. You're probably already using it. You're probably already using it in a Copilot. So if you've ever used Grammarly, or if you've ever used Writer, or even if you've ever used Google Docs and you're typing and it auto suggests the rest of the sentence for you, or it suggests grammar correction, that is a Copilot. You are already using AI in one of the three ways that we use AI. Claude Code is another example of a Copilot. A Copilot is basically when an AI sits inside of a tool with you and it assists you in completing tasks as you go. So most of you are probably already using AI in the form of a Copilot. The next way that people start using AI is through a chatbot. And that would be if you were just using Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT and you were just interacting with it. And you could just be talking to it. And we'll show you a number of use cases today that are the chatbot format. Or you could create a custom GPT or a project or a Gemini gem. And that's just something that's a little more sort of systematic where you're giving it some more context and you're enabling yourself to get some better quality answers out of it. You're tuning it, so to speak. And then the more advanced way, and we'll share a couple of these today, is an agent. And an agent is like having a teammate. Using AI as an agent is when you use AI as like something that goes and does work on your behalf, and you don't have to tell it every single time what to do. You kind of give it a set of instructions and you say, every day at this time, I want you to go and run this, or every day when something happens, when there's a trigger, I want you to go and execute this. And so it's almost like having an employee or a teammate that's helping you be successful. So before we dive into our 10 use cases, and we are going to show you 10 today, I want to walk through some tips, some general guidance and principles on how you can use AI more effectively. So the first one is everyone talks about wanting to write the best prompt. And there's a lot of people who are sharing like, here's the prompt I use for this, or this is the perfect prompt for that. You don't have to start with a prompt. In fact, you can use AI to help you write your prompt because it knows itself best. It knows what it needs to know in a prompt. And so I actually found it's really useful to start, instead of using a prompt, tell AI what your goal is. What is that you're trying to accomplish? So maybe you're trying to write a buyer persona, which is one of the use cases we'll demo today. And instead of trying to come up with the perfect prompt, tell AI, say, I want to create a buyer persona for this industry, and here's how I'm going to use the buyer persona, and let it tell you what that prompt should look like. The second one is to break it down into multiple steps. Early on, when I was starting to use AI, I thought I had to tell it absolutely everything. Okay, I want you to create an outline, then you're going to write the blog, and then I'm going to need the title for the blog, and then I'm going to need social posts. The more that you try to condense into one step, the lower quality your result is going to be. So think about breaking it down into multiple discrete steps, as many as you possibly can, kind of like a recipe. If you're going to go bake a cake, it lists all the ingredients, the recipe lists all the ingredients, and then there might be like 12 steps, right? So the more you break it down, the more fine-grained control you're going to have over what it's doing. It allows you to review the quality of the work at every step. That's called human in the loop, where you're reviewing stuff as you go, and you're going to get an end result that is way more aligned with what you want it to be and way better quality. Third, context. We're going to talk a lot about context today. Give the AI a job in the same way that you might write a job description for, let's say you're looking to hire, let's say Lauren wants to hire a HubSpot admin. She's going to write a job description and say, here's the experience you need to have. Here are the things that you need to know how to do. Treat your AI the same way, because if you don't give it that context, you're just kind of getting like a general purpose tool. Instead, tell it exactly what information it's supposed to use and disregard. Fourth, give it examples of desired output. So one of the first examples we'll show you today is how to create a voice and tone guide. And if you can give it an example of a voice and tone guide and say, I want it to look sort of like this. It should be, 2 pages long. It should have an overarching summary section up front. It should have 5 values that are in the voice and tone guide. Give it an example of what your sort of best case work looks like, and it'll be more able to design something that looks like that. This is probably my favorite one. Tell it to ask you clarifying questions. If you don't tell the AI to ask you clarifying questions, it sometimes will still ask, but most of the times it doesn't. And the reason is AI is designed to want to be helpful to you. It's designed to want to be pleasing to you. And so if you're sort of acting like it should know everything already, then it's going to want to act like it knows everything already as well. What I do in every prompt I give it is I end by saying, if there's any questions I can answer for you to help make this, more clear, to help you create a better response, let me know what those questions are. Sometimes it'll go through 3 rounds of questions with me, and it's actually acting as a thought partner when it's doing that, because sometimes the questions that it asks me, I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't realize you needed to know that. So give it permission, tell it to ask you however many questions it needs to be able to come up with the best possible result. Use hard constraints to improve quality. This could be as simple as saying, let's say you wanted to come up with titles for a blog, and you're like, here's the blog. I need some examples of titles. I'll say, give me 5 examples of titles, or I'll say, give me 10 examples, and they have to be less than 60 characters each. And I don't want you to use these words because they're really jargony, and I don't want to sound like my content's from BuzzFeed. Give it very hard constraints. I'll also tell it things like, there's certain word choices that make something look like they came out of AI, like, you don't have to this, but you do have to this, right? That's kind of a standard tell, or using an M dash. And so that's an example of a constraint that I will give it to improve quality. You might want it to be no more than 200 words long, because AI loves to write really long things. So think about any sort of constraint you can give it that will improve the quality of the output. I love asking for multiple options. It sort of lets me cast a really wide net, and we're going to practice this in an example that I'm going to show you. But I love having it give me, 5 to 10 ideas, and then I'll be like, okay, options 2 and 7 are really what I'm going for. I want to see more like that. I kind of like some of the ideas you put in options 4, 5, and 6, but they're too blasé, or they're too boring sounding. And that way I can give it more constructive feedback. And then finally, when AI gives you an answer, ask it to explain its thinking. Because when you can see its thinking, a couple things happen. One, you might see things that you hadn't even thought about. But second, you'll start to understand, like, oh, this is how you made that decision. I see why I'm not getting the output that I wanted. Let me give you different instructions, or let me modify those instructions. Okay, so those are our 8 tips that apply sort of overall when you're doing anything with artificial intelligence. Now we're going to talk about a fun example. So before we dive into work use cases, I thought it might feel more accessible and approachable if we did something that was a little bit more fun. So, I have been using AI as my personal stylist, and this is a pair of boots that I happened to see online. They were on sale, and they're kind of out there for me. They're a little different. I don't own anything that looks like this today. And I wanted to buy them, but I was like, am I going to wear them? I don't know how to style these. I don't know what to wear them with. And I was like, I wonder if AI can help me figure out if I should buy these boots or not. So we're going to do a live demo with AI as my personal stylist. And I'm just going to grab the link to those boots. And we are going to ask AI to help me figure out if I should buy the boots. So I would love for you all to help me practice what we just learned. So remember these tips right here. How should we ask Claude whether these boots are going to be a good fit for me, whether I should buy them, and how to style them? Feel free to type anything you want into the chat. We'll make this really interactive, and I will use the advice that you're all giving me. No one yet? Yes. Okay. Start by telling me the role and the goal and the need. All right. So I'm going to start with my goal. Okay. So here's my goal. Actually, we're going to do this even faster. There's a pair of boots I really like, and I'm not sure if I should buy them. And my goal is for you to help me decide whether or not I should buy these boots. Okay. So that's my goal. Okay, so worried, not sure if they're practical. I've actually never seen this interface before. That's really cool. All right. It wants to know a little bit more about my situation. So let's see. I don't own any shoes of this color. I've never bought boots that look like this, and I have no idea how to style them. And then the other thing I'll throw in here is that I'm actually petite, and so I don't know if those boots are going to work on somebody who is short. Okay, so now I'm going to give it the boots. So here's the link to the boots. And I'm going to tell it its role, okay, which somebody had put, a couple of people who put in the chat. So you are an amazing fashion stylist who helps women in their 40s figure out how to dress in a way that is really flattering for them. I just gave away my age, sorry. Okay, so I'm learning something here. It's telling me that these boots are universally flattering, a flattering boot height for shorter women. The sole adds a bit of height without being a stiletto. Okay, this is really, see, I didn't know this. The almond toe is elongating, not clunky. It hits at the right spot on the ankle. It's telling me that the color is really versatile. Now this is now starting to tell me how to style these. So it's telling me I can do these with jeans. It's telling me I can do it with a wide leg, with trousers, with dresses or skirts. Colors that work with cognac brown, navy, camel, olive, burgundy. See, this is amazing. I had no idea. And when I did this, I actually did this a month ago, and spoiler, I did buy the boots and I do love them. When I did this, I actually went through the process of asking all these questions step by step, like what color should I wear them with? What length of dress? What sort of trouser or pant? But because I gave it some context and I said, I'm in my 40s, I'm petite, and I told it its role, I said, you are a fashion stylist who helps women in their 40s, it automatically gave me so much more information than when I did this the first time. Is there one last question that anybody would like to ask? And Damien, I love your suggestion. I could set up a personal styling project. That's actually something that I'm working on. And what I want to do is give it a lot of the items that I have in my wardrobe. And that way, when it gives me suggestions the next time, it can say to me, you can wear these boots with these outfits. Okay. It sounds like we don't have any more curiosity about that, about those boots. So now we're going to go back to our deck, and I want to start taking you through our top 10 use cases. Okay. Um, Could you upload a picture of your current wardrobe? Great question, Craig. So you can, and what you can do is upload individual pictures of individual items in your wardrobe. Absolutely. Or you could put together outfits and you could upload pictures of each individual outfit. So yes, you can totally do that. And it's actually something that is on my list. Okay, so we're going to go through 10 use cases today, Lauren and I, and this is going to be a mix of use cases for product marketing, for marketing operations, for content creation, for pipeline generation. We really wanted to span all of marketing. So first, we're going to take you through how to create a voice and tone guide, which you're going to need for the majority of other times you're going to use AI. We'll walk through how to create really specific buyer personas. We'll create some case studies together. Number four is going to be how you can re-engage closed lost opportunities in a way that's incredibly personalized at scale. Lauren's going to talk through how to automate account data hygiene at scale, then how to automate contact data hygiene at scale. She's going to streamline some manual lead ingestion workflows. And then I am going to talk about Lauren's going to talk about automated orchestration for campaign creation. And then I'm going to show you how to create a competitive analyst agent. And then finally, we will wrap with building an AI content grader. Okay, so here's the first one. This is mine. So I was working with a client and we were just getting kicked off. They had no content ready and we needed to create a voice and tone guide. I needed to make sure I could channel the voice and tone of the founders to make sure everything that we were going to do was going to be on brand. But I actually didn't know them very well. And in my experience, usually when you're creating voice and tone guide, it's something that you're like absorb after you've worked at a company for a while and you kind of know what their tone and their brand voice is about. And it's something that requires consensus from a lot of individuals. And so if somebody were to say to you, hey, go write a voice and tone guide, it can feel very, very abstract. And then the other challenge I think this solves is that even when you're handed a voice and tone guide, you look at it and you're like, okay, I get it. But then trying to write in that voice, it can take a while. It's hard to learn how to follow that guide. So here's what you can do. You can go to any LLM. I've been using Claude for this. Find 5 pieces of content that reflect the desired voice and tone. They don't even have to be externally facing. It could be something that's been written for your internal employees, as an example. It could be your employee handbook, even. Find any 5 pieces of content that reflect the desired voice and tone. It could even be from another company that you like. I did this for a client once in cybersecurity where the CEO said, gosh, I really love how Wiz writes. They have a little bit of humor and it's fun, but it's also serious because cybersecurity is a really serious business. And so there's a level of seriousness that they have in their content, but sometimes it can be playful, but they get the balance really right. And so I grabbed a bunch of content from Wiz that I thought reflected what the CEO wanted. I also found some content that I could tell was very clearly not in line with what he wanted. I then found on the internet an example of a voice and tone guide that I thought was kind of the very like 2-page, easy to read, easy to follow. And I gave it to Claude and I said, here's the format I want you to follow. Here are 5 pieces of content that reflect the desired voice and tone. Can you effectively reverse engineer a voice and tone guide for me? I got a really great set of output. I went through probably 3 or 4 iterations on it, just asking it to tweak and tune some stuff. Within 2 hours, start to finish, including time to get approval, I had a voice and tone guide done, and I earned instant credibility with the CEO and the rest of the executive team. This is really important because for every other asset that you're going to create, you're going to want to give the LLM that brand voice and tone guide. So that's the reason that we start with that one. Okay, so my second one, creating highly specific buyer personas. So if I go back in time, when we as product marketers, and I grew up as a product marketer, when we would create buyer personas, they had to fit on slides. Usually you had 1 or 2 on a slide and they had to be very high level because the goal was that you could train your sales team on them. The end audience for them was really sales enablement. And then the PMM was really the expert in the buyer persona. And anytime that you were talking about doing anything that would resonate with a target persona, whether it was an event, a piece of content, you would go to the product marketer and you would say, does this resonate? Do we need to change it? And they became a huge bottleneck. And I know because I was that person. And so what I've done is I've had AI create very specific buyer personas for me. In fact, I have like 8 to 10 for every company that I work with. We create them by segment, by geography, by title, and maybe even by industry. Each of my buyer personas is about 6 to 8 pages long in a Google Doc. So very, very specific. And I've created Claude projects or custom GPTs for every individual persona. And then I create one persona that's a composite where I upload all of those personas. And it's my composite when I need like overall feedback from all my personas. So I'm just going to show you what my prompt looks like because I'm looking at the clock and I want to make sure we're going to get through all 10 of our personas. I used AI to help me create this prompt. So this is a really, really detailed prompt. I would never have written a prompt this thoughtful and thorough and detailed by myself. So pain points and challenges, goals and motivations, like really specific. What are they trying to achieve in the next 6 to 12 months? How do they buy? Where do they look for solutions? Communication preferences. This is one that I added in. AI didn't come up with this, so there is some human in the loop here. I was working with a client that has an AI forward product, and it was very important to me and to them to know how do our security personas think about AI? Or do they think of it as snake oil, as some of you have said, or are they like leaning in? And so I had to add that to the persona. And then I added some constraints, like please make it really specific and realistic, not generic. I want concrete details. I want actual numbers. I want some real scenarios. And I dropped that into Claude. And as I said, I got back a 6 to 8 page document. You'll notice here there's a couple things in blue. So I was very specific here. I'm looking for a director of security in a company of 1,000 to 7,500 employees. And that's because this was the specific segment that my client was targeting. I put not in a regulated industry because I think I want different personas for regulated industries because they have very different concerns. And so that's why I end up with like 6 to 8 personas, is because I have them broken down by industry. And then what you do is you dump them into a Claude project. And then every time that you need feedback on anything, you go to that Claude project or that custom GPT and you use it for that. Damien, great question. How do you know if it's accurate? So I read through it myself, and I'm not an expert on cybersecurity. So I went to a couple of other people in the company and I got their feedback. And I'll tell you, in this instance, I went to the person who runs our threat research team, who's a vice president. His whole career has been in security. He's actually got quite a public profile. And I put all my personas in front of him, and he came back and he did not edit one thing. And he said, these are absolutely incredible, like spot on. You nailed it. And I was like, yay. So, what I would do is have a couple people who are experts review them. The human in the loop component of using AI is super, super critical. You don't ever, ever want to greenlight anything without having an expert review it. All right. Next use case. Okay, customer case studies. So it can take hours to create customer case studies. You've got to go get all the information. It'll be scattered across different places. It'll be in Slack. It'll be in your CRM. It'll be in your email. Then you do an interview. And then you've got to take all that information and you have to digest it all. You have to process it all. You have to architect a story map. And then you've got to like make sure that you're articulating the pain that your company is solving, but not in a way that paints the customer in a negative light, right? They're the hero. You need to make them look good. And this requires really deep thinking time if you want to write a great story. And I'm sure most of you are like Lauren and I, where your calendar is like 30-minute blocks of meetings all day. And so this kind of deep thinking work, it can be really hard to find time for this. So here's what I've been doing. I've spent the time to assemble all the data. So I went and crawled through the CRM and I grabbed all the emails and I went through the shared Slack channels and I copied and pasted all the Slack messages and I dropped them all into a Google Doc. I took the transcript of the customer interview that I did, dropped that into a Google Doc. And then I went to my LLM and I said, I want you to digest all of this and I want you to architect a story map. I told it what a story map looked like. Then I also gave it my messaging guide, the buyer personas we created in step 2. And I said, I want you to take that story map that I was happy with, and I want you to actually draft the case study for me. This is where you want to give it some hard parameters. If you don't, you will end up with a college essay. So tell it how long you want it to be, tell them the format. Do you want a problem, complication, solution, results format, whatever format you want? How many quotes do you want? Do you want it to use the quotes verbatim as the person said them, or do you want it to like polish them up a little bit and make them sound a little bit more pithy? I wanted them polished. I iterated on that until I was happy with it. Then my final step was to put it through the voice and tone guide. So I uploaded the voice and tone guide and said, great, now revise it so it matches this voice and tone guide. Again, you can see I'm doing this in multiple steps, like it's a recipe. And I got a case study in under 2 hours. And in about 5 hours, I had three case studies done. The next thing I want to do that I haven't done yet, that's going to be a bonus round, is I actually want to create a case study style guide. So a case study style guide would be like if my voice and tone guide and my case studies had a baby. It's like a voice and tone guide, but it tells it what I want my customer case studies to look like. I want them to be, no more than 600 words. I want them to have this structure. I want them to be really focused on business results. I want them all to have 4 pull quotes. I want them all to have 3 stats, something like that. This has been a huge, huge unlock and a huge game changer for me. Obviously, you're never going to publish these without reviewing them, so you review these first. I can tell you, I sent these to the customers for review, and I got very few changes back. So I was really, really pleased with how these turned out. Okay, now we're going to talk about one for pipeline. I was working with a client who had a lot of close loss pipeline, tons of close loss deals. And one of the things that we noticed was that some of our best deals in this past fiscal year came from prior closed lost ops. It was somebody who had heard about us, they had done a proof of concept or maybe a trial, proof of value. They decided not to buy for a variety of reasons, but they came back a year or two later and they bought. And that actually represented a very significant portion of our bookings in this year. And so I thought, how do I get more of these? Because this is working really well. So we ran a report in our CRM of all of the closed loss ops from the previous 3 years. Then we went and grabbed the call recordings from the last 3 years because we were using Gong for a number of years. We grabbed the transcript of those calls. We dropped the transcript into an LLM and asked the LLM to basically give us like, what is the reason that they didn't end up buying? And then we took the URL of the company, we gave it a summary of what's changed in our business. It might have been that we have different pricing now. It might be that we have a lower end SKU now. It might be that we have new product components now. Anything that's changed since we last engaged with the company. And then we asked the LLM to basically draft an outbound message trying to re-engage the account, saying, hey, director of security or CISO, we last talked to you in May of 2022. At that time, you were looking for X, Y, and Z. Since then, we've shipped these new features. We'd love to know if you might be willing to talk to us again. We got out of 100 accounts we outbounded to, we got 30 that responded in about 3 days. That's a pretty incredible response rate. Not all of them have turned into opportunities, but we're staying top of mind. And we got a 30% response rate because we re-engaged them in a way that was incredibly personalized to them. For us to have done that manually without AI would have taken us weeks. So this is a great example of AI takes the things that were hard and makes them easy. All right, Lauren, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, we're gonna move into a few or 4 operations use cases. I want to preface this by saying all of them are operator tested. They are live today. My team relies on them in our go-to-market. So the first is automating account data hygiene. So the problem, I don't know how many of you use enrichment vendors for firmographic data, but we found ourselves enriching accounts with ZoomInfo and Dun & Bradstreet, and there was conflicting data, whether that was revenue or headcount or parent-child hierarchy mismatches. The impact there is that marketing segmentation, routing, and ABM targeting were all being impacted because we didn't know which was right. So how we went about solving that is first we created, and this is a little bit more technical, I'm happy to answer questions afterwards, but we created an AI company profile object in Salesforce. So the objective of this object is to store AI verified values like revenue and employees with a one-to-one account lookup. And then we built an AI agent that is an automated researcher. So anytime we have conflict between our 2 sources, we've essentially created an agent to be the AI tiebreaker. So it goes out, it looks for what is the revenue, what is the employees. It's going to document that in the Salesforce object that is specific to the data it found. And then depending on what it comes back, it's going to choose which to overwrite, like which to choose between ZoomInfo and Dun& Bradstreet. That has massively reduced the amount of manual effort because we were manually researching the data conflicts, and so we saved 80% of time just by leveraging AI to be the tiebreaker. Similarly, we're going to go to contact data hygiene. Similar problem. We have multiple enrichment vendors. In this case, I would say most of the enrichment vendors, they blindly overwrite. Like you can say fill in if this field is blank, or you can say overwrite, but there isn't a way to say only overwrite if the data is correct. And every enrichment vendor is going to have incorrect data values, whether that's on the account firmographic or the contact demographic. So what we did is we built an application in OutSystem that has, first of all, smart overwrite logic. So it's no longer the binary all or nothing. It has a confidence model of, hey, check with the AI agent. If you think this is right, then overwrite it. If not, don't. It also has a persistent bad data memory. So if we have in our systems an email that we know is not right, it bounced in Marketo or it bounced in Outreach, it doesn't matter if ZoomInfo has that email still in their database, because our application is going to say, hey, if it's in our bad data table, do not allow ZoomInfo to overwrite it because we know it's wrong. And it also provides the opportunity for us to feed that information back to ZoomInfo so they can update their database. At OutSystems, we have multiple vendors we use for contact enrichment. We use ZoomInfo, Cognism, Lucia, and UserGems. And AI is able to reference all of those and tell us which one is correct that we should be leveraging on the contact record. And then the final element of this app is it does flag, our agent flags when a record should not be used for personalization. So we have bad data rules that say, like, I don't know what the right information is here, but I think it's highly unlikely that the first name and the last name are identical, or I wasn't able to find the right information or good information in any of our vendors, but do not include this in the next personalized email run that you do, because it would be embarrassing. Can you go? Yeah. If anybody has any questions, let me know. Hopefully these challenges are resonating with what you see as well. Okay, so the next one is we do a lot of events at OutSystems, and a natural outcome of events is manual list uploads. That was a very big point of friction because it was error prone, slow. There were often a lot of mapping mistakes. So we would have names and emails not aligned. It was a mess. And the impact there was delays to follow up. So what we did is we built an application that the marketers can use directly, where they upload the list uploads, or they upload their list from the vendor, and the app automatically looks at the data types and it maps them to our taxonomy of first name, last name, emails. It also checks, hey, does this domain on this email look like it goes with this account? If not, it's going to flag it back to the marketer. So they're going to have an opportunity to go back to the vendor and say, this can't be right. And then where we have conflicts, it does AI cross-validation. So it's doing the eyeball check of, this doesn't look right. And guess what? ZoomInfo confirms that it's not right, or Cognism confirms that it's not right. And here's my suggestion. Massively reduced the amount of processing time and sped up the time that SDRs could be prospecting them. And one more. Okay. Finally, we use 3 primary systems to create campaigns at OutSystems. We have Asana, which is what our marketers use to request a campaign to the operations team. We have our marketing automation platform, which is Marketo, and then we have our CRM, which is Salesforce. There was a lot of manual campaign setup across these 3 disconnected systems that we estimate was resulting in 80 hours per month of just like repetitive data entry. You're creating the campaign in a campaign request in Asana, then you're creating the campaign in Marketo. You need it to sync to Salesforce. You're going to update it. It was just inefficient. So what we did is we created an application that automates the campaign orchestration. So when a marketer goes into Asana, they're requesting that campaign. The app is going to ask for all the information that we need to standardize against our campaign taxonomy, our member statuses. It's going to ask for the budget. It's going to ask for who the campaign is targeting. If it's an email send, which personas are you targeting? When do you want it to be sent? It then is going to look across all of the campaigns and say, hey, just so you know, there's 4 other emails that are sent to go out on that day to that persona. You might have audience fatigue, or do you want to maybe rethink it or go align with your coworker? And then again, I would say the biggest thing is the member status and the campaign taxonomy. We never have mismatches in, okay, if it's webinar, here are your acceptable statuses. It would be that they registered, that they attended, that they no-showed, right? All of that is automatically created, and it propagates all of this in both Marketo and Salesforce all at once. So my team does not have to touch it. The next step on this that I'm really excited about is that for email campaigns, it is going to draft the first email copy. It won't send it, but it will draft the first email copy based on the intent of the campaign and the persona that it's targeting, with the goal, everything. And I'm really excited to see how much that could save as well. Those are my 4 use cases.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. All right, I am going to show you 2 more use cases. So the first one, or I should say number 9, so don't confuse you, is creating a competitive analyst agent. So in my situation here, we've got a small team of product marketers. I actually had a team of 1, and she doesn't have the bandwidth to stay abreast of what our competitors are doing. And it's not great when your CEO sends you a message and says, hey, did you see so-and-so put this on LinkedIn? Or a salesperson gets blindsided on a sales call, right? You don't want that happening. We didn't have the resources to hire a competitive research person on our team to do that. Many people are in that situation, but we're in a space that's really competitive and it's really dynamic. And so we don't want anybody at the company to be blindsided. So what I did for this is I used a tool called relay.app. If you're not familiar with Relay, it's a lot like Zapier. It's just kind of an automation tool, and it's no code, it's drag and drop, and it lets you build all kinds of things. The CEO of Relay, Jacob Blank, has a lot of free classes on Maven where he will walk you through live how to create any sort of analyst on Relay in like 5 minutes, and he'll just show it to you like step by step. He makes it really straightforward and like really accessible. So I was going to demo it live actually, but I'm just going to show you screenshots of this. So what I did is I said, okay, I'm in the ERP space. I've got 3 competitors that I want to track on a weekly basis. At the end of the week, I want you to look at what they posted on LinkedIn and like summarize it for me and email me the results. And then I also want you to include links to the actual LinkedIn post so that if there's like, they announced this new product, I'm like, cool, I need to know more about that. I can just click on the link without having to go find it. It took me less than 20 minutes to create this. I estimate it would save me about 2 to 3 hours a week because every time you get on LinkedIn, you get distracted by something else you see. And so it's probably taking me more time than it should. So let's look at what this looks like. So this is a screenshot of Relay. I went into Relay before this and I just said, I want to create a new agent. They've actually got competitive analysts as one that you can pick from. So it kind of does like the framework of the initial one. I put in that I want this every Friday at 4 p.m. I felt like an end of week kind of look back made sense. I put in, get these 3 companies' LinkedIn posts. Those are the 3 competitors I wanted to look at in the ERP space. And then I wanted to send an email to myself. You could also post it to a Slack channel so that it's not just for you, but it's for the whole company. You connect Slack to Relay and it will auto post all of this to Slack. It's up to you. I want this to trigger every Friday, so every week at 4 p.m. This is like once it starts working, like it'll show you this and it'll tell you, it'll let you choose this. So you could choose like, I want no more than 7 posts. Some companies post like 5 or 6 times a day. So you might want to specify the number of posts. You could change the number of days. If it doesn't find the company, what do you want it to do? Do you want to give it the LinkedIn link yourself? It goes through that same step for the other 2 competitors. So for Campfire, for NetSuite, then I wanted to analyze the posts and I wanted to send it to me in rich text in an email. This allows you to choose a different model if you want. I didn't write this. This is what Relay wrote itself. So I entered what I wanted in natural language. And this is basically it writing the prompt for me so that it knows what to do. It took about 2 or 3 minutes. It was funny when it sent the email to me, there's a little bit of trial and error here. When it sent me the email, it sent me an empty email. There was nothing in the email. And I was like, oh, okay. I have to tell you to put the summary in the email. Cool. Wouldn't have realized that. So like I said, there's some trial and error. And then this is what the email looked like. So this is a screenshot from Superhuman. I just screenshotted the top and the bottom, not the entire thing. So it started with Rillet, and it gave me like a summary of like, and I had said I want new content, customer case studies. I think I said I wanted product announcements, new features, new executive hires, and any sort of like integrations or partnership announcements. So as you can see, like it's categorizing stuff by that. I didn't tell it to break out what was strategically significant, so it's doing that on its own. And then it's summarized a little bit here at the bottom in terms of key strategic insights, which I really appreciated because this email is about 3 pages long. And so what I want to now do is spend more time fine tuning this and having it give me something that is like much shorter, because ideally I want to put this in front of the sales team, in front of the executive team, and they're not going to digest 3 pages of this every Friday afternoon. So this took me less than 20 minutes. I could spend more time and like tweak it and tune it. But I think trying to get started with Relay is a very straightforward way to like dip your toe in the water of agents if you haven't done it yet. Okay, the final one, and I'll do a live demo of this one, is building an AI content grader. If you haven't thought about this, think about it. It makes a lot of sense. Now that it's super easy to create a ton of content with AI, there's a lot of what everybody calls AI slop out there. I like the term word salad. Sometimes I read things and I'm like, oh, that feels like a word salad. It's a bunch of words. They're all mixed up. I'm not sure what it really means. Um, and so now to stand out, your content has to be really good. The bar has gone up because there's so much more content. It's got to be very relevant to your audience. This is why that 6 to 8 page persona matters so much. So you can make it really specific. But then you want to like come back and look at it and review it and make sure that it is really good. And you can do that yourself and you can share it with people internally, or you could use AI to help you grade your content. And so this is a content grader I'm going to show you for cybersecurity, something a friend of mine built and made available to the public so you can all get access to it. And the way that he did it was he went and found a lot of content that a cybersecurity executive said, like, these are really great pieces of content. And he fed those into the LLM and said, like, these have been highly rated as being great content by a cybersecurity expert. Can you basically reverse engineer a grading rubric based on these assets? So it's very similar to how we did the voice and tone guide, actually. And then he told it to create a scoring system, like scored against these 6 things on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is really good. Told it to be a tough grader. That's important because remember, AI wants you to be happy, and so it wants to be pleasing to you. And so if you don't tell it to be a tough grader, it's um, probably gonna look at things through rose-colored glasses, right? So you want to tell it to be a hard grader. Then you want to give it your voice and tone guide. I would give it your full buyer persona as well, so you can check whether it's aligned against those things. Test and iterate on the rubric. Don't just take the first rubric that it gives you. I would ask it to, this is a great example of a time where you wanted to explain its thinking. Like, why did you pick those 5 or 6 categories? Like, what about this other category? Should this one be broken out into 2 different categories? Like, really ask it to explain its thinking. And you can save hours and hours of review time on your assets. So let's do one of these live. So this is the content asset grader that my friend created. He did this specifically for cybersecurity because it's really tough if you're not a cybersecurity expert. It's really tough to know whether content is going to resonate or not. His name is Francois Dufour. He's phenomenal. He writes a weekly email on use cases for AI. Panther is a company that I've been working with for a while, just published this blog post like 2 weeks ago on how to build a SOC team or a security operations center team. So I just grabbed the link. You can also paste in a PDF. You could paste in the entire text. And I'm just going to ask it to grade that asset. And it thinks for about a minute or less. And so it's like, okay, so this is a solid high level primer. It covers all this stuff. So that's really good. But it leans a little bit on product positioning. Yeah, because Panther's trying to position themselves as the solution for the AI SOC. So yes, that's true. But it's pointing out that like it's leaning a little into the product and it doesn't really come across as being super agnostic. It lacks deep, actionable technical guidance, such as concrete playbooks or dashboards. It doesn't cite independent data or benchmarks. That's really good feedback. I hadn't thought about that yet. And then these are the categories that it came up with in the rubric that Francois had defined. And it gave me a score on this asset for these different components of the rubric. It gives me some other suggestions on how I could also improve it. So some quick wins, gives me some more specific recommendations. It even asks me, like, do you want me to, I think it does this, let's see. Yeah, I can rewrite a section of this article so that it's more sort of practitioner friendly. So I think this is amazing. I know Francois even created one for one of his kids who is applying to college, and it's like a college essay grader rubric. So there's a lot that you can do with this. That is the final use case that we want to show. A couple of, so these are the 10 use cases we went through. And then I wanted to show you just some additional resources that we would recommend if you're like, okay, some of these feel accessible or approachable, or actually even I know how to do some of these, like where do I go next? These are 5 people that we would recommend that you follow on LinkedIn. So Kyle Poyer, he's the one who did the 100, 200, 300 level use cases. Liza Adams is amazing. She posts probably every day with a new AI use case for marketing. I think it's pronounced Maha. Maha Voj is really amazing. She posts really long things on LinkedIn as well. She also has a newsletter. Jacob Bank is the founder of Relay, the tool we used in use case number 9. He's got tons of free content on how to build agents on Relay, makes them very simple to digest. Lots of those courses are on Maven. And then Francois, who I mentioned, is a friend of mine who built that cybersecurity content grader. He also publishes a weekly newsletter. It's free, where he goes through kind of 3 to 5 use cases for go-to-market teams every week in his newsletter. And then the final thing I'll recommend, and this is not free, is there's a course on Maven called How to Scale a Business with AI and Agentic Workflows, taught by Sarah Davison and Tyler Fisk. It is a very, very deep go down the rabbit hole and learn how to build not just agents, but how to build like a team of agents and how to orchestrate those agents and how to have them all talk to each other. It's a phenomenal resource. I would highly recommend it. And that's it. We have a few minutes left. We can take questions. Okay, so somebody's asking for a link to the asset grader. We will make sure that goes out in the follow-up email because it is really valuable.
Yeah. I haven't seen any other questions come in, but feel free. We have a couple more minutes. So if you want to throw in any questions or any final thoughts, feel free to throw them in the Q&A.
And
I know we
actually,
always, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I can actually drop a link to that content grader right now into that chat.
That'd be perfect. And I know I mentioned this at the beginning, but this recording or this webinar will be recorded. So we'll be sending out an email tomorrow afternoon with the link to the recording. So if you want to share with anyone, you'll be able to do so. Cool. Thanks for sharing the content grader.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. I don't think we have any other questions, but we'll also in the follow-up email provide email addresses for Seema and Lauren. So if you do want to follow up with them on any of the questions or any of the use cases that they covered, you'll be able to do so. So with that, we can wrap up today's webinar. Thank you so much, Seema and Lauren, for sharing your amazing use cases on AI in the B2B SaaS world. We're so thrilled to have you joining us for this 60-minute webinar. And yeah, with that, we will wrap up today. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.